All right, our next ministry is Young Life Impacting Hearts. And I was sitting down here and I was thinking about, I'm going to introduce Jay and Shane Panther, Jay Panther and Shane Panther. I was thinking, gosh, when you're growing up, if you were the Panther brothers, I mean, nobody would pick a fight with you, would they? All right, give a big round of applause to Jay and Shane Panther. Come on up, you guys.
Does that one work?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, what is up, Barnabas Group? We are so excited to share with you guys today how God is transforming the foster care community in Orange County through a new branch of Young Life called Impacting Hearts. But before I do that, I'm going to explain to you guys who these two long-haired hippie-looking kids are in front of you.
This is my brother Shane, and he was a professional soccer player in the MLS with Real Salt Lake.
And this is my brother Jay, who is a professional skier on the U.S. ski team.
Now, we're brothers, and we're 8 years apart, and we're also best friends. And we're blood, despite the fact that we might not look like it. And when you see our parents, it makes a little bit more sense. And before we started this ministry a few years ago, professional sports were the only thing that either of us had ever done.
And as a result of doing professional sports, we know what it takes to be driven and dedicated. Maybe a little bit too competitive, but those things are good in trying to run this ministry. However, before God transformed our lives, I'm not going to lie to you guys, we dealt with selfishness and self-focused. And we don't have it figured out yet, but God's been working in us.
That's right. And that's part of what makes our story so cool. 7 years ago, God called both of us back into the family independent of each other. And then he grew us independent of each other. And then he put it both on our hearts separately that he wanted us to share the transformative love of Jesus Christ with kids. And then he put it both on us separately that he wanted us to retire, not telling us what was next. So we packed our bags, we retired, and we came down to Southern California where our mom was living to see what God had in store.
That is our mom right there. Ladies, shake her hand. She is genuinely our greatest volunteer, oftentimes referred to by many of the kids that we work with as Mama Star. And at the time when Jay and I moved down to Southern California, she was working with a program called Gems Uncovered. And at Gems Uncovered, they work with women who have been trafficked, and as a result, have gone through some pretty traumatic things. One of the things that my mom learned while she was working with this program is that 80% of the people in sex slavery are in the foster care system. We went on to learn more about some of the things that were going on in the foster care system, and it broke our hearts. We were blessed with a family that loves us, and the thought of kids not having something similar just seemed unacceptable. So we took action.
That's right. 6 months later, Young Life Impacting Hearts was born. And 7 months later, we started our first club in North Orange County. And we're here today to tell you what can happen in the future with your help.
So Young Life Impacting Hearts is a Christ-centered, relational-based mentoring program. And we work with the Department of Child and Family Services and other foster family agencies to introduce every single kid in the foster care system to Jesus Christ. We want to help them grow in their faith. We want to provide them with a family atmosphere that they've been deprived of, and we want to help them achieve self-sustaining adulthood.
Now, a lot of you are probably familiar with Young Life, and we are Young Life, but we're Young Life for kids in foster care. And we started this ministry in LA and have expanded into Orange County. Now, we can all probably appreciate the impact that parents had on our lives, but can you imagine what your childhood would have been like, what you'd be like right now if you had not had a single consistent, loving adult speaking into your life as you were growing up?
This is the reality a lot of our kids face. And if I'm being honest with you, the foster care system can be a pretty scary place. This isn't because the foster care system isn't doing a good job. They're just operating in a broken world outside of how God created a mother and a father to interact with their children. So that's what we're here to do, is to aim to change this.
Yeah, every kid in foster care is there because their parents either abused or neglected them, and they were at a serious disadvantage from the very beginning.
For the average foster youth, within 2 years of aging out of the system at 18 years old, they're either dead, homeless, or in jail. That's just 2 years after aging out of the system. And 2% of them don't even report having full-time jobs at any point.
And did you know that right now, 80% of the people that are incarcerated in the state of California are or were in foster care?
We see the outworking of this horrific truth every single day, but we're not here just to make you sad. There is light in the darkness, and so I want to introduce you to our friend Joseph. Now, this is Joseph, and he looks a little bit scary, but he's got a great story. And Joseph actually entered the foster care system when he was just 8 years old, when he was placed into a group home.
Now, a group home is a place where kids in foster care go to live in masses, and they have staff that rotate every 8 hours that take care of them. Now, these staff aren't parenting these kids. They're making sure that their basic needs are met for. And so can you imagine how disruptive it would be for every 8 hours to have the adult in your life change?
Joseph ended up in a group home because his mother was deemed unfit due to drug addiction, and his father was incarcerated for gang-related activity. So needless to say, when Joseph ended up at one of our weekly clubs, he was not in a good place.
Now, when we say club, we're talking about separate weekly meetings that we do for middle school kids, high school kids, and college-age youth.
Now, club is designed to create a safe environment where our leaders and our kids can get together and form relationships. We also want to create a space where they can experience Jesus. Now, when I say the word leader, I'm talking about our volunteers, our mentors, the people who are working directly with these kids. Now, the reason that we do this is because a lot of our kids, because of the trauma they've experienced, they have a hard time building relationships. So at Club, we use 4 basic components to help break down walls and allow for a natural relationship to form.
The first is we serve a family-style meal at every single club. And this just creates an awesome environment for the leaders and the kids to be comfortable, to talk, to get to know each other. It also is an opportunity for the kids to experience family in a way that most of them never have. And it's neat because the leaders serve the kids so they feel like kings. And eventually the kids end up serving each other so they get to experience the benefit of service.
Second element is we do a faith-based message. This comes directly from the Bible, and the reason that we do that is because we feel like every single young person has the right to hear about Jesus in a way that's understandable to them and relatable, something outside of maybe what they're hearing at church. Now, we also have one of our leaders give this message. Every single week, a different leader. They include some of their personal testimony. The reason we do that is because it allows for the kid to see the leader being vulnerable. It communicates to the child that it's safe to come and share their story at Young Life Impacting Hearts. And it allows for them to connect with our leaders in a different kind of way.
We also teach independent living skills. So this can be anything from creating a budget to doing a resume for a job or for college, down to grocery shopping and doing laundry. Most of these kids have never been taught the life skills necessary to be self-sustaining adults who can contribute to society. And so it's also an awesome opportunity for our leaders to teach the kids something and to really bond in a unique way.
Lastly, we have fun, and we have a lot of fun. We play silly and wild, ridiculous games that usually end up with him and I getting pied in the face, if I'm being completely honest. We dance, we sing, we just try and break down walls. We offer a place where these kids can do that, be kids. They've forgotten how to do that a lot of times. It allows them to see adults like us come down to their level and relate to them in a way where they want to start building relationship.
If I'm being honest, we do fun really, really, really well. It's really and truly one of the pillars that we stand on. Jesus first, fun a close second. But we can't tell you with words how much fun we have, so we want to show you a quick video.
This is what Young Life is all about. Pool party, baby. So I told you, we like to have fun. Thank you, thank you. So I want to bring it back to our friend Joseph that we introduced you to a little bit ago. When Joseph first came to one of our clubs where we have fun like that, he was just 16 years old. And he was in a super dark place. He was on probation for gang-related activity and drug use. He wasn't going to school. He was rarely sober and always angry. He had a daughter who was 1 year old that he didn't even know.
The first couple of times that Joseph came to club, he literally did not speak. He sat in the corner with his hood up and his earbuds in and a furrowed brow. But our leaders were diligent week in and week out in saying hello to Joseph. And after a couple of weeks, he finally offered his name. A couple weeks later, he smiled. And a couple weeks after that, while we were playing one of the ridiculous games, he even laughed, even though he tried to hide it so no one could see. And within a couple of months, Joseph was interacting with the leaders and the kids and having fun like a teenager should. That summer, we got to take Joseph to camp, and it was amazing. He was ready to change his life. By the end, he'd actually dedicated himself to Jesus.
So the camp experience, thank you guys. So the camp experience that Joseph got to go to is something that we do regularly in Young Life. It's one of our greatest relationship building tools. I mean, it's literally 24 hours a day where kids and leaders are being together. And it's a time where these kids are experiencing God in unparalleled ways. And for any of you who have been to a camp experience, maybe you know what I'm talking about. But even more so for our kids, it's the first time in their life where they have a week to get away from all the distractions that they have going on at home, all of the madness and the craziness. For Joseph, it was the first time he was away from his gang long enough to make that decision for Jesus. And we were able to give 25 kids that same opportunity this summer.
When Joseph got back from camp, he admitted that he was ready to change his life, but he was scared to get out of his gang. But it was the first time that he had had a network of adults around him who loved him and peers around him who were his friends. And more importantly, he understood the value that his life had as a result of who God created him to be. And so Joseph was ready to take the steps to leave his gang, and he paid the price. Over the next couple of weeks, he took a few super severe beatings. But after each and every beating, he showed up at one of our leaders' houses to get cleaned up, and more importantly, to get loved.
And Young Life thrives because of leaders just like that. It thrives because people just like you guys took the time to invest and build a relationship with a child that doesn't have a family. For a lot of our kids, the relationships they have with their leaders are the most trusting and sincere relationships they've had in their lives. And for some of them, it's the longest lasting one.
Now, we ask all of our volunteers to have a few points of contact with the kids throughout the week. And as you come to club and develop relationships, the leaders end up with like a group of kids that are kind of theirs. And so their time spent with them in the week can be going to club, doing a Bible study, taking them to lunch. It can be going to one of their sporting events. And as a result of the dedication that these leaders put in and the relationships built, they have gotten to be in every aspect of the kids' lives. From being there to help them get ready for their first prom and put on a dress or a suit for the first time, all the way to sitting in court with these kids while they wait for a verdict as to whether or not they're going to get to go back with their parents.
And these leaders are people just like you. And the cool thing is that a lot of our leaders would tell you the transformation they've experienced is even more so than what the kids are experiencing.
Now, Joseph actually grew up in Orange County, less than 10 minutes from where we're sitting right now. And the truth is, there are over 2,500 Josephs in your backyard, in your neighborhood, kids in foster care right now, and their lives are quite literally nightmares. But we are in a position to change it.
Now, social services is one of our greatest advocates. And because they've allowed us access to the kids, we've been able to start up 3 separate clubs, working with 30 volunteers and serving over 200 foster youth, ages 11 to 25. But this is only a drop in the bucket to what we could be doing.
Our goal is to have 9 clubs all throughout Orange County, so as the kids get bounced around from home to home, they always have a Young Life leader and a Young Life club accessible to them.
Now, the reason for this is because the average foster youth, by the time that they turn 18, lives in 13 different homes. That's 13 different homes, schools, places that they're going. There's no consistency in their lives.
And these kids deserve people in their lives to fight for them. More importantly, they deserve to hear about Jesus Christ in a way that makes sense to them, in a way that they can relate. Now, we've gotten to see that the kids that are a part of this program are not falling prey to the horrible statistics we've shared with you tonight.
So, in front of you guys, you have a list of ways that you can get involved with us. And so, we're asking that if your heart's been plucked to maybe be a volunteer, somebody that's going to do day in, day out life with these kids, we would love that.
We'd also love it if you were interested in helping but you don't want to adopt or volunteer, then please connect with us because we have a rad network of ministries that are helping these kids.
If you were interested in maybe using your unique skills and talents to help steer and guide this ministry, we're looking for dedicated individuals to sit on our committee.
We also need people to provide their network because these kids need job opportunities and they need life skills.
We also are looking for more church partners so that we can get those 9 club locations going.
Now, we pray a lot, and we pray big. And the truth is that our prayer would be that the foster care system is eradicated. Did you know that there are more Christian churches in the U.S. right now than there are kids in foster care? So if every single church stepped up and adopted one kid, there would no longer be a need for our ministry. Until that day comes, we're going to be here sitting in the mud, working with these kids, and showing them the love of Jesus.
So, if you guys are interested in joining us and helping us out, we're going to be doing a meeting on September 16th. Please come out and join us. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thanks,
It was an
guys.
honor.
You got the clicker?
Great. Let's pray for Shane and Jay and what they're doing with this foster kids. Father, as we come before you, we hear about kids in Paraguay. We hear about kids right here in Orange County, and we know you've got a heart for them. And when we hear the statistics of what's going on with foster kids, Lord, I mean, we just have to step back because that's incredible. How can we make a difference? I pray, Lord, that there's people here that tonight they might step up, that they would fill those feedback forms out, that there would be connections made, Lord, and that young life impacting hearts would be changed. And, Lord, that they would serve more people because of the connections you might make tonight. So we lift that up to you, Lord, and we lift it up in the precious name of your Son, Jesus Christ.